A wedding gown appointment was refused to her at the city's premier bridal boutique due to her casual attire. Tan culottes paired with a simple cotton shirt. The employees examined her from head to toe before bursting into laughter. "You've likely come to the wrong establishment. Our gowns begin at $80,000. Rentals aren't available here." Despite Nina producing her confirmation email, they remained skeptical. Someone whispered, "Has she stolen another person's invitation?" Likely just another attention seeker posing as someone famous. These identical individuals attended the billionaire's ceremony. They witnessed her arrive in yet another understated tan outfit. Once again, they ridiculed her appearance and summoned security. However, when the chapel entrance opened, they pivoted and stood frozen in shock. On a fresh April morning, Nina Everhart entered Maison Claire de Lune, the type of day when New York City pulsed with potential and the air carried subtle hints of coffee and rainfall. Located on Madison Avenue, the boutique served as a shrine to elegance. Ivory roses adorned its display windows, while a subtle golden nameplate protected its entrance. Crystal chandeliers hung inside, casting light over dress racks that gleamed like captured starlight. Dressed in tan culottes and a flowing cotton top, Nina appeared as though she belonged to an entirely different realm. Her brown hair was gathered in a simple low knot, her complexion natural, save for a touch of pink on her lips. At 29, she possessed gentle beauty, prominent cheekbones, greenish-brown eyes that appeared to harbor mysteries, and an understated elegance that commanded a second glance. An unmarked canvas bag hung from her shoulder. 4 staff members in fitted black attire, their hair as polished as their expressions, halted their discussion mid-sentence. Camille, the tallest among them, raised an eyebrow. "May we assist you?" Her inflection implied the response would be negative. Nina smiled calmly and retrieved her phone. "I have a fitting appointment scheduled. Nina Everhart, 11 o'clock. She displayed her screen, revealing an email bearing the boutique's emblem and her reservation information. Camille glanced at the device, then returned her attention to Nina's clothing. A smirk formed on her lips. "I apologize, but there appears to be an error. Our designs begin at $80,000. This establishment is exclusively private." Her tone was sweet yet cutting. The remaining 3 employees, Laia, Margot, and Sophie, shared meaningful looks, their mouths twitching with amusement. Laia, the youngest, leaned closer, speaking in an exaggerated whisper. "Has she taken someone else's email? It occurs frequently." Nina's demeanor remained unchanged. "There's no error," she replied, her voice as calm as flowing water. "I ordered this 6 months ago. Custom creation, ivory silk with diamond details." She spoke with certainty, showing no trace of uncertainty. However, Camille folded her arms, her polished nails drumming. "Dear, we don't accommodate walk-ins, and we certainly don't handle—" She gestured toward Nina's culottes, her nose wrinkling in distaste. Margot, scrolling through a tablet, snorted dismissively. "Nina Everhart. The name means nothing to me. Likely another wannabe using a false identity." Sophie, positioned near a veil display, pulled out her phone and began typing rapidly. "This is incredible," she muttered, already broadcasting live. Her caption stated, "Intruder in discount clothing disrupts bridal appointment." Comments flooded in immediately, filled with laughing emojis. "Who does she think she's fooling? Remove her immediately." Nina stood motionless, her bag resting at her side. She didn't dispute or raise her voice. "I'd prefer to—" "Oh, speak with the supervisor," she stated, courteous yet firm. Camille laughed openly, the sound sharp and piercing. "Sweetheart, I hold that position, and your name isn't in our client database. Let's avoid creating a disturbance." She signaled to Leia, who stepped forward with a thin smile. "Time for departure." They refrained from physical contact, not yet. Instead, they positioned themselves on either side, guiding her toward the exit like an unwanted stray. As Nina stood near the boutique's velvet drapes, gripping her tote, a wealthy patron in a mink coat, joined the confrontation. "Who permitted this riffraff entrance?" she demanded, her diamond earrings catching the light with each word. Victoria Lang was her name, a socialite whose family controlled much of the Upper East Side, and her voice carried the authority of privilege. She approached closer, her heels creating a rhythmic countdown, and touched Nina's blouse with a manicured finger. "This insults couture," she declared loudly enough for the mirrors to echo her words. The staff encouraged her behavior, with Laya applauding as if witnessing entertainment. Victoria's companions, two women dressed in Chanel, captured photographs while their giggles cut deeper than any weapon. Nina's grip tightened, yet her expression remained serene, like a porcelain facade concealing internal turmoil. The live broadcast's comments increased rapidly. "Garbage has no place here. Make her weep." The audience watched eagerly, hungry for her suffering, oblivious to the authority she possessed. Nina moved alongside them, her steps deliberate, her face peaceful. "You're committing an error," she whispered quietly, almost to herself. Sophie's device captured the moment, and her audience, now reaching 2,000, consumed it eagerly. "She's lost in fantasy," one comment stated. "Believes she's a celebrity," another added. Upon reaching the entrance, Camille called out behind her. "Consider a department store next time." The glass door closed, and the street embraced her. Within hours, Sophie's live broadcast became viral. Page 6 published a headline: "Mysterious woman in beige pants disrupts exclusive bridal salon." Vanity Fair labeled her the delusional dreamer. The Daily Mail was more harsh. "Fashion mistake or fame hunter? Meet the nobody who believed she belonged." Twitter exploded with memes. Nina's culottes were digitally placed on red carpets with captions reading, "When you confirm attendance at a wedding but overlook the dress requirements." No one recognized her identity, but they witnessed her supposed shame, or so they believed. 2 days afterward, a collection of private aircraft arrived at a French countryside estate, a 17th-century property called Château de Lumière. Its grounds overflowed with lavender and roses, its towers reaching toward a sky so brilliantly blue it was painful to observe. This represented the year's most significant wedding. Raphael Linwood, successor to Linwood Media, a $40 billion empire controlling half the world's publications, streaming services, and news organizations. At 32, Raphael remained mysterious. Tall with dark hair and eyes capable of charming or commanding. A man who transformed his father's inheritance into a worldwide power. The bride's identity remained unknown. The media had been silenced, an achievement only Raphael could accomplish, citing safety concerns. Speculation circulated. She might be royalty, a technology heiress, or a supermodel in hiding. The guest list represented a collection of fashion and power elite. Editors, designers, influencers, all bound by confidentiality agreements. Invitations had been extended to Maison Claire de Lune's employees, Camille, Laya, Margot, Sophie, along with numerous influencers who had amplified the live broadcast. They assumed their so. She'll influence secured their invitations. Sophie, now with 10,000 additional followers, strutted through the chateau's entrance wearing a crimson dress, her phone already active. "This represents my opportunity," she whispered to Leia, who wore emerald silk and a satisfied expression. Camille, dressed in sapphire velvet, surveyed the crowd while name-dropping to anyone willing to listen. Margot, more reserved in black lace, remained close, her eyes darting as if sensing atmospheric changes. The courtyard was magnificent. Marble fountains, white lilies, a string quartet performing Vivaldi. Guests mingled, their diamonds sparkling, their laughter crisp. Then a ripple moved through the assembly as heads turned. Nina Everhart stepped through the entrance. She wore a beige linen dress, sleeveless, reaching her knees. Her hair hung loose, framing her face in gentle waves. Her flats were plain, worn at the tips. No jewelry adorned her, no purse accompanied her, just her hands folded gently before her. She appeared as if she had emerged from a farmer's market rather than a billionaire's wedding. Sophie noticed her initially, her gasp clearly audible. "Impossible," she hissed, lifting her phone. "The beige pants woman." Camille's eyes narrowed, her lips curling. "She possesses audacity." Laya laughed loudly enough to attract stares. "Is she gate-crashing again in that outfit?" Margot hesitated, her fingers gripping her clutch tighter, remaining silent. The influencers, led by Zara Kane, a fashion blogger with 1 million followers, swarmed with phones extended, their voices creating a chorus of disdain. "Did she lose her way to a second-hand store?" Zara commented, her lavender gown swishing as she circled Nina. "This is mortifying," another influencer, Theo Voss, added, his gold cufflinks gleaming as he captured a photo. Nina didn't react. She stood in the courtyard, her hazel eyes surveying the crowd, her posture straight as a sword. A server offered champagne. She declined with a nod, her smile subtle but genuine. The guests pressed closer, their whispers intensifying. "She's a nobody," one editor mumbled. "Probably bribed her way inside," a stylist sneered. Sophie began live streaming again, her caption bold. "Beige woman crashes billionaire wedding round 2." The viewership climbed, 20,000, 30,000, comments flooding, "Eject her. What a failure." Camille stepped forward, her voice cutting through the music. "You don't belong in this place," she declared loudly enough for the quartet to falter. In the courtyard, as Nina faced Camille's accusations, a group of fashion interns congregated near the fountain, their identification badges swinging like nooses. One sharp-eyed girl named Tessa stepped forward, her voice loud with ambition. "She's probably here to steal clothing," she shouted, pointing at Nina's tote as if it contained evidence of crime. The interns cheered, encouraged by Tessa's grin, and one threw a pink macaron, the crumbs staining Nina's dress. "Return that to Brooklyn," another yelled, their laughter a vicious wave. Sophie's live stream focused on capturing the stain on Nina's hem. The intern's taunts now trending as beige girl's breakdown. Nina brushed away the crumbs, her movements intentional, but each jeer struck like a stone, accumulating. The crowd fed off the energy, their phones preserving her humiliation, unaware of the empire she controlled. "This is a private function. Depart, or I'll summon security." Laya added, "Don't embarrass yourself again." Zara's laughter was like a whip. "She's already accomplishing that, honey." The crowd moved closer, their phones forming a wall of lenses capturing Nina's silence, her stillness. She looked at Camille, her gaze steady, almost tender. "I received an invitation," she said, her voice quiet but clear. "Verify the list." Camille scoffed, waving dismissively. "You're not on any list." She signaled to a security guard, a muscular man named Hugo with a crew cut and an earpiece. He approached, his hand hovering near Nina's arm. "Ma'am, let's proceed," he said, his tone emotionless. Nina remained motionless. "Request Raphael," she said, her eyes locked on Hugo's. "He'll resolve this." The name fell like a stone, and momentarily Camille hesitated. Then she laughed, harsh and brilliant. "Raphael Linwood, you're fantasizing." Hugo grasped Nina's elbow, firm but not aggressive, and began escorting her toward the gates. The crowd followed like a pack sensing blood. Sophie's live stream reached 50,000 viewers, her voice delighted. "Here it happens again. Beige girl receives the boot." Zara tossed her hair, calling, "Perhaps attempt a courthouse wedding next time." Theo shouted, "Send her to the budget section." Their laughter reverberated off the chateau's stone walls, a sound capable of shattering weaker spirits. As Hugo began leading Nina toward the gates, a renowned designer, Julian Rex, famous for his avant-garde runways, joined the mob, his silk scarf fluttering like a banner of contempt. "This is why we maintain exclusivity," he proclaimed, his voice resonating for the influencers to capture. He leaned toward Nina, his cologne sharp, and sneered. "You're a walking insult to taste." The crowd roared, emboldened as Julian threw his cocktail napkin at her feet, the paper floating like a challenge. Zara and Theo echoed him, chanting, "No taste, no place." Sophie's stream hit 60,000, her lens lingering on Nina's dusty flats, now spotted with dirt from the path. Nina stepped over the napkin, her spine straight, but the designer's words clung like humid air. Each syllable was a wound no one saw bleeding. The world laughed louder, blind to her strength. Nina continued walking, her dress catching the breeze, her face unreadable. Halfway to the gates, a tech heiress named Priya Shah, draped in molten gold, pushed through the crowd, her bracelets jingling like chains. "She's deceiving us all!" Priya screamed, her voice shrill enough to silence the quartet. She pointed at Nina, her nails like daggers, and spat, "You think you're clever sneaking in? You're nothing!" The crowd surged, phones flashing as Priya grabbed a glass of rosé from a passing server and hurled it at Nina. The pink liquid splashed her dress, dripping down her legs. Sophie's live stream exploded, 80,000 viewers now, comments screaming, "Drown the fraud!" Nina paused, wiping a drop from her cheek, her eyes steady but burning with something unspoken. Priya laughed triumphantly as the mob howled, their cruelty a wildfire. No one dared intervene. She didn't plead or argue. She moved like someone who knew the storm would pass. As they reached the courtyard's edge, Margot broke away from the group, her face pale. She caught Nina's eye, her voice barely audible. "I apologize," she whispered, then turned back, swallowed by the crowd. Nina nodded, a flicker of warmth in her gaze, but said nothing. Hugo's grip tightened as they neared the gates, the crowd's jeers peaking. "Wedding crasher!" someone yelled. "Go home!" another taunted. Sophie zoomed in, capturing Nina's dusty flats, her plain dress, the dignity in her spine. The internet roared. Cash beige gate trended worldwide, memes multiplying. Nina in her linen dress captioned, "When you gate crash, but forget the glow up." Then she was gone. Hugo escorted her through a side door, out of sight. The crowd erupted in cheers, clinking glasses, their victory sweet. "She fled," Zara crowed, posting a clip of Nina's exit. "Total embarrassment," Theo added, his followers liking it by the thousands. Camille raised her champagne flute, her smile triumphant. "That's how you handle a nobody," she said. And the quartet resumed. The moment swept away like dust. Inside the chateau, the grand hall waited. Its ceilings painted with cherubs, its floors gleaming marble, its tables set with orchids and crystal. Guests drifted in, their gowns rustling, their chatter buzzing about the beige girl scandal. Sophie refreshed her live stream stats, 100,000 views now. Her direct messages flooded with brands wanting collaborations. Camille networked with a Vogue editor, dropping hints about her instinct for spotting fakes. Laya and Zara posed for selfies, their captions smug. Keeping it classy at the wedding of the year. Only Margot stayed quiet, her eyes on the doors, her fingers twisting her necklace. The hall dimmed, candles flickering to life. A hush fell as the ceremony loomed. Raphael Linwood appeared at the altar, his dark suit tailored to perfection, his presence electric. He stood alone, his eyes scanning the room, a faint smile playing on his lips. The guests leaned forward, breathless. Where was the bride? Whispers spread. Had she canceled? Was there a scandal? Sophie started typing, ready to break the news. Then the doors swung open. Every head turned. Nina Everhart walked in. She wore the gown, the one she'd been banned from trying on. Ivory silk cascaded like a waterfall, its bodice encrusted with diamonds that caught the candlelight and burned. The skirt flowed behind her, a delicate train whispering across the marble. Her hair was swept up, a single diamond clip gleaming like a crown. She was breathtaking, not just for the dress, but for the power in her step, the fire in her eyes. On her arm was Raphael Linwood, his hand steady, his gaze locked on her like she was the only truth in the room. The hall was silent, a collective gasp frozen in time. Camille's flute slipped from her hand, shattering on the floor. Sophie's phone trembled, her live stream still running, now at 200,000 viewers. Zara's jaw dropped, her lavender gown suddenly garish. Theo's cufflinks seemed to choke him. Margot's eyes widened, a tear slipping free. The guests, editors, designers, moguls, stared, their certainty crumbling. Nina didn't look at them. She walked forward, her arm in Raphael's, her chin high, her grace a blade that cut through their scorn. Raphael stopped at the altar, turning to face the crowd. His voice was low, but it carried like thunder. "This is Nina Everhart," he said. "My wife." The word landed like a bomb, shattering the room. "We've been engaged for 2 years, planning this day in secret. Not for fame, but for us." Nina asked me to keep her name out of the press, and I did. Not because she's weak, but because she's stronger than anyone here. He paused, letting the truth sink in. Nina stood beside him, her gown a beacon, her silence louder than any speech. Raphael's eyes hardened, but his tone stayed even. "She's also the founder and CEO of Eve, the fashion label you've all been wearing without knowing it." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Eve, minimalist, revolutionary, a brand that had surged from nowhere to dominate runways and red carpets. Its creator was a mystery, her identity guarded like a state secret. Until now. "Nina built Eve from nothing," Raphael continued, his pride a living thing. "No investors, no connections, just her designs, her vision, and a laptop in a Brooklyn studio. Today, Eve is valued at $10 billion, and she's about to take it public for $1.2 billion. She owns this industry whether you like it or not." The crowd was a sea of stunned faces. Camille's knees buckled, her sapphire dress pooling as she gripped a chair. Sophie's live stream surged to 500,000. Comments screaming, "She's Eve's CEO." "We had no idea." Zara's phone slipped, cracking on the marble. Theo muttered, "Impossible," but his voice was hollow. Margot's tease, Artful smile grew. She'd known somehow that Nina was more. Raphael's voice sharpened, a blade unsheathed. "And Maison Claire de Lune. Nina's been negotiating to acquire it for months. As of yesterday, she's the controlling owner." Camille gasped, a strangled sound. Laya's emerald gown seemed to choke her. Sophie's stream caught it all, her viewers now at 700,000, the internet ablaze. Raphael's gaze swept the room, pinning the guilty. "You mocked her, humiliated her, live-streamed her pain. You judged her for her clothes, not her heart. And you were wrong." He nodded to a woman in a gray suit, Elena Ruiz, Nina's chief of staff, who stepped forward with a glowing tablet. "Elena," Raphael said, "name them." Elena's voice was ice. "Camille Morrow, Laya Tran, Sophie Bell, for orchestrating and live-streaming Nina's humiliation at Maison Claire de Lune. Zara Kane, Theo Voss, for amplifying the slander. Here, you're done." Guards moved swift and silent. Camille screamed, "This is a mistake!" As Hugo took her arm, leading her out, her sapphire dress catching on a table, tearing at the seam. As Camille was dragged toward the gates, her sapphire dress now a crumpled ruin, the crowd's silence was deafening, broken only by her desperate pleas. "I built Claire de Lune!" she screamed, her voice cracking as Hugo's grip held firm. Outside, paparazzi swarmed, their cameras relentless, capturing her mascara-streaked face, her torn hem trailing in the dust. A headline flashed on a reporter's phone. "Claire de Lune manager fired by mystery bride." Social media turned. Camille's own followers unfollowed in droves, her name now a punchline. Guests whispered, "She mocked the wrong woman." Elena's tablet pinged with news. Claire de Lune's stock plummeted, investors fleeing as Nina's merger loomed. Camille stumbled, her empire collapsing with every step, while Nina's star rose, untouchable. Laia followed, sobbing, her emerald silk trailing like Defia. Sophie tried to stop streaming, but a guard confiscated her phone, her 800,000 viewers watching her fall. Zara's protests, "I'm Zara Kane," faded as she was escorted past the lilies, her lavender gown a fading spark. Theo stammered, "I didn't know." But the guards were deaf, marching him to the gates. Priya's exit was a spectacle of shattered pride. As guards escorted her out, her gold gown caught on a rose bush, ripping audibly, her bracelets clattering to the ground. "You can't do this!" she wailed. But the paparazzi were merciless, their flashes blinding as they shouted, "Smile, Priya!" Her tech empire's shares tanked, news of her disgrace spreading faster than Sophie's live stream. Guests murmured, "She threw wine at Nina, serves her right." Online, #Priya Falls trended, her brand deals canceled, her followers deserting her for Nina's grace. The chateau's gates slammed shut behind her, locking out her arrogance forever, while Nina's vow of respect echoed, a beacon for a new era. The press waiting outside went wild. Flashes lit the night. Headlines forming, "Fashion elite ejected from Linwood wedding. Nina Everhart, Eve's secret queen, takes revenge." Social media erupted. Nina Everhart trended globally. Memes now celebrating her gown, her grace, her power. The world rewrote her story in real time. Nina stepped forward, her voice soft but unshakable. "This isn't about revenge," she said, the hall hanging on her words. "It's about respect. I built Eve to create beauty, not division. But I've seen how this industry chews up anyone who doesn't fit its mold. That changes now." She paused, her hazel eyes sweeping the room, resting briefly on Margot, who stood alone, her face streaked with tears. "Maison Claire de Lune will merge with Eve. No more gatekeeping, no more cruelty. We'll design for every woman, not just the ones you deem worthy." The crowd was silent, some nodding, others too stunned to move. Nina's gaze softened, but her resolve was iron. "And to those who judged me, learn from this. Kindness costs nothing, but cruelty has a price." She turned to Raphael, her hand finding his, their connection a quiet fire. The officiant, a silver-haired Frenchman named Father Julien, stepped forward, his robes rustling. The ceremony began. Vows exchanged under a canopy of stars. Nina promised to stand by Raphael, her voice steady as dawn. Raphael vowed to be her shield, his eyes never leaving hers. The kiss was gentle, a seal of equals. The reception unfolded in the gardens, lanterns glowing, music weaving through the air. Nina and Raphael danced, her gown shimmering like moonlight, his hand steady on her back. Elena approached later, her tablet dark. "It's done," she said. "Claire de Lune's staff terminated effective immediately. The merger's announced. The world's calling you a revolutionary." Nina smiled, leaning into Raphael. "Good. Let's keep it that way." As the night deepened, Nina found Margot by the fountain, her black lace dress damp with tears. "You apologized," Nina said, her voice warm. "That mattered." Margot nodded, choking out, "I didn't know who you were." Nina touched her arm. "You don't need to know someone's name to be kind." She paused, then added, "Eve Bridal needs a face. I'd like it to be you." Margot's eyes widened, her breath catching. "Me?" Nina nodded. "You saw me when no one else did." The party swirled on, but Nina and Raphael slipped away, standing alone by the chateau's edge, the countryside stretching dark and endless. He brushed a strand of hair from her face, his voice low. "You changed the game tonight." She smiled, her hazel eyes catching the stars. "We did, together." They weren't just husband and wife. They were a force, rewriting an industry's soul with every step. Nina, Everhart didn't need to shout her worth. She'd walked through fire and emerged as light. If this story hit you deep, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe.